You know, somebody, I think CNN did a story about children sleeping through the air raids. They've become so used to, infants, they've become so used to it, it's nothing out of the ordinary to them.
We're ready.
Okay.
Going live. 3, 2, 1. Ready?
Ready when you are.
Okay, and go.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are so grateful to have you here with us today. And Summer Dickerson, Jared Wright, Riot Heart Media, and I are proud to be able to introduce you to some amazing folks, one of whom I met yesterday on just a random live stream about medical supplies going to Ukraine. That's Nadiia, and she and I began talking about whether or not there were live streamers in Ukraine. And what she talked to me about was the fact that they are not encouraged to live stream, and they are not encouraged to expose locations as we have done in our live streaming here in the United States during the protests particularly. So I said, if we can amplify anyone from Ukraine in any way, we would love to do it. And here she has brought two friends, one who is in Ukraine, one who is in Poland. Nadiia, I'd love to give you the opportunity to start and tell us why you're here stateside, and then talk to us a little bit about what you and I discussed yesterday about your desire and your obligation to help your native land.
Okay, thank you. My name is Nadiia. Thanks everyone for joining. And I came to US in 2014, and yesterday actually a few people at SOS International asked me whether there was a particular reason for that, because 2014 for Ukraine was a terrible year, if not to say more. And but in my case, it was just a coincidence, because at the moment where Crimea was annexed, I actually got accepted the position of postdoctoral research associate at Brown Cancer Research Center at Louisville. So from 2014, I'm in here just doing my research. So I came here as a scientist because after defending my PhD, I decided that I want to pursue my career as a researcher. And at that point in Ukraine, such position as a postdoc did not exist in Academy of Science. So I had to move somewhere to work on that. And I have to say that US was not my first country of choice, but that's where I got accepted, and Louisville is a great place, and Brown Cancer Center is one of the best cancer centers in the country. So I got lucky on that side. So now it's been 8 years as I'm in here, and it seems like I'm some kind of like in circles, because now again everyone is talking about Ukraine. So what was the most surrealistic part is when you move somewhere where people do not speak your native language. Of course, you try to learn that language, and in our case it was English, and I expected that my English will be good enough to talk to people on the street and make like brief conversations, small talks and everything. But what happened is that I came to US in July 2014, and in 2 weeks after that, there was that MH17 crash of the Netherlands plane on the territory of Ukraine with more than 150 victims, and that was a huge catastrophe for the whole world. And out of sudden, in the morning, everyone was talking to me because I'm Ukrainian, and everyone was asking me the question that required the language that my vocabulary was not prepared for. Like, dead people, like plane crash, like war, like missiles, bombing and everything, and I was not ready for that. And not only I was not ready for that, but I was kind of angry because that's not the way you want your country to be known for. And the same is happening today. Everyone knows about Ukraine, everyone speaks about Ukraine, but almost nobody knows anything about Ukraine except the world wars and the color of our flag. So I'm actually deeply thankful for the opportunity for people to see us the way we are. That it's not only the war. There are nice and educated and kind of like handsome people, Ukrainians, and I mean we can talk, and we will be happy to tell something else about our country, how artistic it is, because on top of everything, Luba is a painter. She has an incredible taste in watercolor. Vova is a translator of children's books. I mean, we don't live in the cave. Eastern Europe is not a country of cavemen, despite of the situations we've been dragged in, because the situations that everyone is seeing on the pictures seems like those are the pictures from 15th century.
Yes.
So, that's about something.
You froze just for a second there, but that's okay. Let's go to Liuba, and you are currently not in Ukraine, but actually in Krakow, Poland.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm in Poland. I'm Luba. Nice to meet you. I'm now in Poland, but I'm a psychologist from Kyiv, Ukraine. Actually, I was born in Kharkiv. This is a city on the east of Ukraine.
Yes.
Probably you heard about it. About 20 years I am living in Kyiv. Actually, my English is not very well, so I just wrote my story and I will read it if you don't mind.
Absolutely, but we want to compliment you again on how beautiful your English is.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Nadia. Okay. So the story is about why I am in Poland now. I'm a psychologist from Ukraine. I work in the direction of Viktor Frankl's logotherapy and existential analysis. I have a private practice as a psychologist. I lived in Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. I love animals since I was a child, so I have 2 cats that live with me. I also have a sister with 2 little nephews, 4 and 9 years old or young, living nearby. My typical day was like this. I worked with my patients in the office or online, volunteered as a psychologist with homeless people in the Center for the Homeless, had a meal at the restaurant, watched some movies with my friends, or met my family. On the 21st of February, I woke up at 5 in the morning because of the explosions in my city. I checked the news and found out that Putin announced a military operation in Ukraine. I called my sister and said that the war had begun and we have to evacuate children from Kyiv as soon as it's possible. While my sister was packing children's things, I was looking for a car that would be big enough for me, my sister, 2 kids and 2 cats. That was challenging because people ran away in panic. Finally, I was lucky enough to find my friends with a minibus who took us with them. The battles near Kyiv began, so we met a lot of tanks, heard jet aircrafts above our heads, saw the destroyed equipment not far away from our road. We rode 40 hours without any rest, then stopped in the shelter for poor people in the west part of Ukraine. Next day, relatives of my sister's husband took us to their home. I left my sister with kids there and went further. Finding accommodation in Western Ukraine was very difficult due to the incredible number of refugees from other parts of Ukraine. In the end, I was lucky to receive an invitation from complete strangers from Poland, neighboring Ukraine. As far as I did not know these people, there was a high risk of falling into slavery. Such stories happened to single women crossing the border since the war has begun. But I took this risk because I could not find even a room for me and my animals. I got there through Lviv, a city in the west of Ukraine, and came under the first shelling of the city early in the morning. I will never forget the frightened but very brave Polish bus drivers who took me and many other women and children from Lviv to Poland under the shelling. They and other wonderful Poles will always be in my heart. I arrived in a city where I didn't know anyone, with a cat carrier and a backpack. I don't know if there will be anything else left of my normal life. I don't know if my apartment will not be destroyed when I return to Kiev and if I can return there. But the Polish owners of the house who invited me to their place surrounded me with amazing care and warmth so that I feel safe and can continue to work as a psychotherapist. And a few words about my work as a psychotherapist on work. To be a psychotherapist meant you really care about your patients, and you are the person who is really interested in their development as a human beings. It's hard for me to convey how I feel now that every patient I've worked with for years to heal has received a huge new wound. I remember the last session before the war with beautiful young girl who was in therapy as my patient for 1 year. She was full of joy. She finally found her path in her life, the work she really loves. 1 week later, I found out that one of the first Russian rockets hit the apartment when she was. That's my story. Thank you.
Absolutely incredible. And thank you for sharing that with us. We really very much appreciate it. Heartbreaking, to say the least, to hear you talking about the patients that you have lost, who have not been able to make either transition out of Ukraine with you. You're in a beautiful room with books in the background and plants. Are you in a place of your own now, or are you still staying with someone?
I'm staying in the Polish house. I have a separate room and my separate cabinet for working.
I gotcha. Well, thank you for sharing that story with us. And if you don't mind, we'll come back to you for some questions too, after we hear from Vovo. And Vovo's in Ukraine, and you are waiting for us so patiently. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Liubov, we appreciate you, and we'll go to a place close to Kiev, and we're not going to get any more specific than that. You look like you're in a very dark room, but I guess it's what, 10:15 or so at night there?
Yes, it's 10:15, and sorry I cannot turn on the lights because of masking. We are have to mask from from air, you know.
Yes.
We are thinking that our anti-aircrafts can protect us. But anyway, everybody in this region have to turn off the lights during evenings, during nights. So sorry for this background. Some books are also on the shelves. Some books are translated by me. And here is the last book I have translated for Ukrainian children. It's Penny Dale, American author. It's poems, and
Wow.
I gave it to my son, but he will read it after returning from Czech Republic, where he is now with his mother.
So your children and your wife are not with you at this moment?
Yes, almost 1 month they aren't here. I can explain you where I am. I'm thinking about our conversation. As I understand, Tara, you are from Louisville. Yeah.
I am. Originally, I'm from Portland, Oregon, but I've been here for almost 40 years.
So you know, for example, when I looked on the map of Louisville, it was very like Kiev, but 5 or 6 times smaller. It's also on both banks of river. In your case, it's Ohio River. In our case, it's Dnipro River. And I am near Goshen. It is a small village in the northern part of Louisville. So after war began, I understood that Russian troops came closer and closer to our village. After 3 days after invasion, we can hear explosions of war from the other bank of the river. In your case, it can be Charlestown or Scottsburg, so we can hear explosions here. And finally, Russian troops started to move from Chernihiv. They surrounded Chernihiv. It's like Cincinnati in your case. So imagine that somebody surrounded Cincinnati and goes to by the road 71 towards your city.
Yeah.
They are coming to Pendleton, I think, and they stopped by Ukrainian army near the Lagrange. You know this. Again, small village, a small town near Louisville. It's 10 miles from my house. So we can hear explosions all day, most of night. Russian, especially like shellings in the mornings. They started the war in the morning, and every morning began at 5 or 4 o'clock with massive shellings, positions. My son, 10-year-old, he is a nice guy, but he has some problems at schools, problem with communication, and I was always afraid how he will manage this stress, how he can manage traveling by to be a refugee. Because I had friends abroad, friends scientists who offered help to me, but I waited till the very end, till we have seen the smoke from the nearby village, 10 miles. So I'm in Goshen, and Lagrange is on fire. I was very afraid, and my son was very afraid. We spent several months in the sailing where we are storing some vegetables. We have a small vegetable garden, and
it's what we call a root cellar here, or a storm shelter, basically.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So there was very cold during nights. The nights were very cold in the beginning of March, -0, below 0. And I looked at my son and I decided that we have to move. We have to move, and the only way to leave Kiev was train. I cannot drive. It's for USA, it's unusual.
Right.
but my old father can drive. We sit in the car and go towards Kiev to the railway station. It was the only way to leave Kiev railway station. It's the way ordinary take 1 hour or less. We traveled 5 hours. Son was very nervous. We had to go out of car, and we have a ball in our car. We love football, and sometimes when we were absolutely stuck in the traffic of people who trying to move to Kiev to save themselves, we get out and stand in 1 meter, one from another, me and my son, and push the ball so playing ball. And we are playing ball, and distance explosions made us shake. So it was very, I will never forget this travel. But finally we were at the railway station. It was overcrowded with people, no timetable. Different trains goes westward. They goes to Lviv, they goes to Kovel, they goes to Ivano-Frankivsk, cities in the west of Ukraine. Nobody knows where he or she will go finally.
Yes.
And luckily I find a place for my wife and my son in one train. And they depart, and they couldn't go home because it was dark and the roads were closed in Kiev because it's commandant hour. I don't.
It's curfew.
Sorry?
In English, curfew.
Curfew.
Yeah.
We experienced a curfew here a few years ago too, so we know what that means. It means everybody off the streets and inside, or you will be arrested.
Yes, and I had to stay in the railway station. Of course, the first emotion was the very emotional moment when my son departed, and he asked me, "Dad, can you please come with me?" And I answered that, "No, I can't." And when I stayed during the night in this overcrowded railway station, another even much harder emotion came because I am a healthy man and I am on the railroad. I stayed there and I thought that people around me can think that I am hiding myself, that I am running away. So I was more afraid that somebody will think that I am running from my city.
Yes.
But I think I will not run from here. I stayed here. I have a lot of duties at my work, and I believe that Ukrainian army will protect us. And I am doing what I have to do, and I will do what I will have to do if it will come. So now we understand that there's no chance to stay aside of this war, to be or you are a refugee, or you are fighting, or you are killed. So it's only alternative for us here. Sorry for emotions. I tried.
Please, we welcome you to tell us exactly how you're feeling, and we can only sympathize. We can't even imagine. I know that of the three of us, Summer's the only parent, and I'm sure that she's really. Feel free to hop in here, Summer. Feeling a tremendous amount of sympathy for you having to let your child and your wife leave you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's, as a parent, my prayers are with you. For sure.
Very, very challenging situation. Jared, you and I talked last night about some of the things. that we wanted to share when we were doing this live stream. And one of the questions that just popped into my mind that I'd like to get a response from both of you, Luba and Vovo. Are you surprised at the effectiveness of the Ukrainian army in stopping the Russian machine, which was once widely believed to be the greatest or the second greatest military in the world? Are you surprised at the success that Ukraine has had in shutting down this extraordinary show of force by Russia?
Well, I am not surprised because I took part in Maidan in 14 years. And I know these people. They will be fight. They will be fight and they will win.
How about you, Vovo?
I don't see his camera working.
He must have popped out for a minute. We'll come back. Nadiia, tell me what you think about it. You being here and seeing it from afar. Here he comes. He's back again. How did you respond? How did you feel the situation stacked up to your expectations?
Are you asking me or Vova?
Yes, I'll ask you and then I'll ask him.
Well, as a Ukrainian, I was surprised that people around were surprised. I was not surprised. And maybe because I am Ukrainian, so I obviously do identify myself with the country and I put myself in.
Okay, she's frozen for just a second.
The skin of the people who is it, they don't have a choice. They don't have a choice. That's why we have a saying in Ukraine. It says liberty or death. It may sound a little bit like showing off in front of other people, but unfortunately there is a very deep meaning in that. In US, actually, it's a good country to discuss these questions, the questions of your rights as a human, your right of free movement, your right of free speech, your right to have liberty, and your right to protect your life and the life of your family. So that is not a question for you. This is your basic right, and without this basic list of rights, you are not a human anymore. So I do understand that for people who lives in Ukraine, who is the part of armed forces and who is the part of territorial defense, which I am actually not sure at this point how much territorial defense is actually, whether in American news people or journalists even talk about territorial defense, but I want you to understand one phenomenal thing about Ukrainians, that actually the people who are fighting for Ukraine now, some of them are officially parts of armed forces. So those are the people in army uniform, and they have a contract with the government to protect their country. But the phenomenon is that every single small town on the border and in central part of Ukraine has so-called territorial defense. This is a self-organized group of Ukrainians.
Amazing.
Who doesn't wait. They don't wait for the help to come. They stand up from the first minute when everything started. And I actually forgot to mention something, that I was born on the border with Russian Federation. I'm from town, from the city which is called Sumy, and it's 20 kilometers, which makes it 15 miles from the border with Russian Federation. So,
wow.
My city was surrounded on February 24th at 5 a.m. Those people didn't have a chance to go there was no one talk about going to the train station, and in my situation, what happened with my family was that I was sitting in my beautiful living room in the apartment after work, and I was watching some movie, and then out of blue on my cell phone there was a notification saying that Russian troops crossed the border on the northeast, which means it's my town. So at that specific moment, I'm calling my brother, and he's already awake. It's 4:30, and he and his wife are packing stuff, and he is telling me that he wants to evacuate his family and my mom. And at that moment, actually, Luba texted me that she woke up because there was some noise outside, and I already knew what that is.
I bet.
So in the case of my family, my brother was not able to leave because at that point the city was overcrowded with people and all the cars, people trying to leave. They were not able to leave. And I was the one who called my mom, and she was still asleep. And what actually happened, I'm really thankful to my boyfriend to be around, because I was so shaken, and I'm shaking right now actually, but I was so shaken I was not able to unblock my cell phone. So I realized that I have to call my mom right now to make sure that she will be ready before my brother comes in the car, so she can jump in right away. But I can't unblock my cell phone to call her. So finally he helped me to unblock the cell phone, and I'm calling my mom. She's asleep. I'm trying to be like super calm, and I'm telling her, Mom, you have your pills. Grab the pair of shoes, and your son will pick you up in 5 minutes. And she said, what happened? And I told her, Mom, the troops crossed the border. That was it. Then they were not able to leave. It was too late, and they ended up in shelter for 3 weeks. With my mom's brother, who's my uncle. They were 7 people in the shelter, and in the second green corridor, they were able to evacuate. And my father was trapped in summer house 20 kilometers from my town, and he's still there. He didn't leave. So I want you to understand that for this phenomenon of territorial defense, all those cities like Kharkiv, which is 3 hours drive from Sumy south, and again 40 kilometers from border with Russian Federation. Chernihiv, which is probably 5 hours drive from Sumy to the north, but again 40 kilometers from the Russian border. All of those towns, when the Russian troops crossed the border, there was no armed forces in there to protect them. They were pretty sure that the Russians will cross from the south and from the east. So people inside the cities organized themselves to become a territorial defense. The men, they took whatever weapons they had, and a lot of them didn't have anything, and they just didn't let anyone to go. If that cost them their lives, again, you don't have a chance. And Vova said it the right way. You have to do what you have to do, because your options are limited. The options for your family are limited.
So I want people to think about, just for a moment, when you said you told your mother to get your pills and get your shoes. The only reason that we do that is for a tornado warning in Kentucky. So we wake up in the middle of the night, we hear a warning for a tornado, we grab our dogs, we grab our glasses, we grab maybe our wallets, and we go to the basement, we go to the root cellar that Vovo was talking about, we go somewhere below ground that's safe. You know, when you're talking about leaving, you're talking about leaving and not coming back, and your entire lives being disrupted. And I'd like to go to Vovo and just talk a little bit about just thinking about in terms of, and by the way, when you dropped off earlier, was that just a bad connection, or did you have an error alert?
Actually, it was a good reason. My son called me, and my parents are talking with him now.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, good. So, we're going to reflect for a moment, since you are the one who is still inside. You are still on the inside. You are in the heart of Ukraine, very close to the capital city of Kyiv. We've been hearing horrific reports coming out, especially out of Bucha, and we're going to be seeing more, I'm sure, as Russian troops withdraw. Talk to us about if you have any surprise at the way Russian troops have been treating citizens of Ukraine, because now we are talking about holding Vladimir Putin responsible for war crimes. Talk to us about your response to what has been discovered as these troops have pulled out, Volvo.
As I understood, for all civilized world, the massacre in Bucha, in Irpin, in these cities near Kiev, but on the other side of Dnipro, was surprise. They were shocked because nobody could imagine that it can be happen in Europe in 21st century. But first of all, I told you that when Russian came and take one village after another, we started to receive this information because we have friends there, we have relatives there. So my student called me. He is from the village a little bit norther than my village. And he told me, and I was here, and my son still was here. And he told me that they are killing civilians. And I had to believe him because his mother was there. He luckily could take her of that village, but he told me that they are killing civilians, they are stealing things, they are killing animals on the farms. So I believe in it. My brother, who is also godfather of my son. In Ukraine, it is very important when somebody is godfather of your son.
Yes.
He is from Bucha. He, luckily, in the very first days of the invasion, he managed to send his wife and 2 sons of him, 4 and 6 years, to Poland. They are there. And himself, he stayed. He entered the territorial defense. Nadia told about it, and he have seen Bucha by his own eyes. So when the godfather of my son tell me, I have to believe him. Another approach, Ukraine for many years were, I don't say a part of Russia, but it was invaded by Russia. From the beginning of 20th century, when Ukraine tried to proclaim independence after the First World War, right. And we were invaded by Russia, occupied by Russia. So our grandparents remember that, and we know about the war crimes that Russian can do. We know about famine that was in Ukraine in 1930. My grandmother, she's left now. She's passed away now. She was old, and she was a child during 1930s. And still, after all these years, you have to see how she feels about bread, for example. If some child can throw bread, she was more than angry, she cried. So for Ukrainians, it's not surprise, but we, these people I have met Russian scientists on the conferences. We have relatives in Russia. Some of us. My wife is 50% Russian. She has family in Russia, and their family isn't communicating with her anymore.
Oh.
So this was a surprise. Cannot believe that people can become in such a condition, an unhuman condition. How it can be? We have seen each other close, and now it happened.
And on a very small comparative note, we never in the United States thought that we would see an aggressive takeover of our United States Capitol. And when you speak of the inhumanity that you are seeing from the Russians, we saw inhumanity from our own citizens that we never could have imagined would exist had it not come out in the wake of the Breonna Taylor and George Floyd protests. So, man's inhumanity to man has been documented for many, many centuries. And there's really never a surprise, unfortunately. We should never be surprised at the base behavior of the animal that stands on 2 feet. I'm sorry for what you're going through right now.
You remind me a poem of my favorite English poet, Rudyard Kipling. Kipling Jungle Book. He has a very famous poem, "Truth of the Bear." So
That's right.
Don't believe bear who goes on 2 feet. It was a poem about Russia.
Yes.
So more than 100 years ago, he wrote it.
And most people would not know that too. And I'm glad that you brought that up. We've got folks who are watching who just said, thanks for sharing this. And I think it's so important that people hear what you are experiencing. And I was so glad to meet Nadiia yesterday because we had a chance to talk a little bit. And I asked her to share with me some of a comparison of the cities, and you did such a beautiful job just now talking about what it would be like for us in Louisville to have war come down on us when LaGrange was on fire and people were bombing Cincinnati. That was a very good cooperative kind of visualization for us because a lot of people are not familiar with Eastern Europe. They're like, where's Ukraine? We don't understand. So I asked Nadiia yesterday to share with us some of the comparisons that she had to cities in the United States with which people were more familiar. And she mentioned that Kiev is very similar to Chicago and that her little hometown is very similar to, say, Wichita, Kansas. So, if you just imagine those places and you imagine what it's like to have tons and tons of equipment rolling in, these gigantic tanks which destroy the ground that they roll on, these massive amounts of bombs and mortar shells being shot. And then you think, and I'd like you to reflect on this for just a minute, you think about the resistance, which you are part of, the resistance of the drone pilots who have been scouting out these tanks in the forests and sending information to the Ukrainian forces so that they can target and destroy those tanks. Talk to us a bit about the organization that's been done within Ukraine by the people who have resisted. And you talked about the territorial defense. Just share with us a little bit about that feeling of joining together. I think you muted.
Microphone.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Again, if we are talking about the self-organization of Ukraine, Nadia told about it, and why it is so important and why it happens here. I'm again thinking about Kipling. Once he wrote, "The bachelor, he fights for one, as joyful as can be, but the married man don't call it fun, because he fights for three. For him and her and it." So for his family, Ukrainian people has no choice. Nadia told it. We really had no choice, or death or freedom.
And let me tell you that give me liberty or give me death, not only is a Ukrainian saying, but Patrick Henry, a famous orator in the United States, delivered that speech, I believe, at the Second Continental Congress in about 1775 or 1776. I'd have to Google it to see. But yeah, give me liberty or give me death. And it sounds like that's the modus operandi you're living by.
But it is loud words, you know. But
Yes.
actually, it only means that liberty and unliberty. When you don't have liberty, you have no choice but to die. It's all. It's very simple. And these people who are going to the territorial defense, they are local people. These people, you know, Ukrainians are the nation of farmers, the nation of self-made men. A lot, even those of them who have work. For example, me, I am scientist. I am deputy director of the scientific institute. We have 20 chickens, 7 geese, 2 rabbits, and we have a small vegetable garden. Other people, they have larger gardens. They have more animals. They have cattle. They have pigs. They are year by year, they are working on it. They make their yards as lovely as they can. They worked on the fields with love.
Yes.
And finally, somebody came and want to destroy all this. And what is the choice? Only to defend it. And these people who cannot leave it, cannot run away, they will fight for till the very end, you know. And I think that the motivation, such dreadful motivation, is a big deal in this war with Russia, because they came in to steal washing machine in the house. So we are fighting to protect our property, to protect our work, the work of our fathers and grandfathers, you know.
I imagine a lot of the land is inherited through generation after generation, Volvo.
Yes, you know, we had a large tragedy, Second World War. Almost all Ukraine was destroyed. So before we had the First World War, and then revolution in Russia, and Bolsheviks came. So and everything was destroyed. So people trying to working on their land, then everything was destroyed. They again gather themselves, work, make the places where they live lovely, make a good place for their children, and then again everything is destroyed. And now again, after 80 years from Second World War, it was very hard time in the beginning during Soviet times, but it was very hard after Ukrainian independence was proclaimed in 90s. 90s were very hard, but finally people started to organize their lives as they understand it must be. And again, somebody came to destroy. For what? We don't understand the reasons why they want to kill us. I don't know why they want to kill Ukrainian men, women, children. For what? Why they want to destroy our houses?
I'd like to go to Lyuba to respond to that and give you a moment, because I know that's an emotional topic, Volva. Lyuba, if we ask you the question, what is the psychological damage that is being done as a result of this invasion? Talk to us about what you are experiencing as a psychotherapist.
Well, I will try to convey it in English, but okay. My direction in psychotherapy was created by Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a Jew during a Second World War, and
Right.
she was an Austrian Jew. So he had to pass through the biggest concentration camps. I live here nearby the one of the famous in Auschwitz. So my direction was created in the concentration camp. And I know a lot about these things person going through when they lost their nearest, when they just lost everything. And I have to say that what we have now, it's pretty similar to what Jews had during Second World War, because after what the world have seen in Bucha, for example, we can talk about the genocide.
Exactly.
Absolutely, it's not a war; it's a genocide of my people, and I'm not surprised actually. I wrote a post on my Facebook, and I just open it, and I can to read another one piece because it is talking, about the situation, but it's about what my family had 100 years ago. Vova just talked about these times, and I want to convey what my family passed through these times. So, my post. Another morning, another small talk with Russian-related friends, relatives, whatever. Why your government doesn't want to stop the war, they ask. Just give Russia these regions and everything will stop. Bring peace, give Russia the whole country if it requires, and your children will be safe. Why are you so stubborn? Well, because nobody will be safe this way, actually. 100 years ago, my great-grandfather's home was set on fire. He took his children, ran away in Kharkiv, and changed her surname from Ukrainian to Russian. So I have a Russian surname, Dolhova. Okay. His two brothers did the same. And from this time, nobody in my family speaks Ukrainian. I am a native Russian speaker. No. Why would they did it? We are Russians, my grandfather said, staring at the wall when I asked about our truly surname. I knew the true story from his sister. They were children whose father did everything to save them from the genocide, that's all. Being Ukrainian, speaking Ukrainian, having a Ukrainian surname in Ukrainian city Kharkiv, under just another form of Russian Empire, Soviet Union, meant you will be killed. Sooner or later, by shooting, by Siberian concentration camps, by tortures, by Holodomor. It's a great famine. You will be killed by Russians. Another morning, another shelling of Ukrainian city. Oh, come on. Why are you so stubborn? They asked.
Unbelievable. I'm interested in what Vovo has to say about the difference between what it was like in the daily living in this city that he lives in, this town outside of Kyiv. I'd like to know what the changes have been that have been most impactful on him. So Vovo, what has taken place that has changed? You mentioned something earlier about liquid nitrogen, and I'd like you to share that story.
Yes, as a scientist, I'm working in biochemistry, and we are working. Our director always say that we are working on improving the quality of human life. So it's our dedication. And more than 30 years, almost 40 years, our institution is working on diagnostics on blood coagulation disorders. So
Wow. So hemophilia.
It's my hemophilia and stroke and myocardial infarction. So
Wow.
we are studying it, and it is the field of expertise. And finally, 20 years ago, scientists obtained very specific cells that can produce antibody, that can be therapeutic antibodies or can be used in diagnostic kits. And we are working on their implementation into practice. But these cells must be stored in liquid nitrogen, otherwise they will die. So when the war began, so we were out of liquid nitrogen because the factory who did it for us were shelled. It is destroyed by shelling. And nobody could transport liquid nitrogen to our institute from other cities. And after a week, I understood that these cells will die. So no antibodies, no therapeutics, no diagnostic kits, and work of 30 years of different people. I know these people. Some of them are gone in this moment. It will be destroyed. So it was very alarming in the beginning of March near Kiev. But we have found a place where we can take liquid nitrogen for our cells. It is evaporating. It's not for constant. So you need to add and add more and more.
Right.
And finally, I find me and my friend. We find the car. We find the big barrels for liquid nitrogen. I wrote the letter that I am the deputy director of the institute. Will ask everybody to support traveling. This letter is here with me. It's ridiculous because I wrote myself about helping me in transporting the liquid nitrogen. So It's a stamp of our institute, and we crossed the blog posts. I know, is it correct? Yeah. Because Kiev prepared
for the checkpoints. You mean
checkpoints? Yes. Checkpoints.
Okay.
Kiev was prepared for the invasion. Russians were very close. The rockets came to Kiev, destroying buildings. People still trying to flee away from Kiev, and we go to this road. We can see smoke not far from the road because some rocket came. And on every checkpoint, our soldiers asked us, what is the barrels? And we showed them this letter and told about cells that can be dyed. And this army men, they looked on us as on somebody not very clever. Okay, shelling, war, Russian coming. You are going for liquid nitrogen for the cells, really? Finally, we again. It was almost all day. We need to get to the barrel with liquid nitrogen to fill our barrels. Came back to the institute, saved cells, spending night under continuous air alert.
Yes,
sirens. And next week we had to do it again. And next week we had to do it again. So luckily, till the end of March, the coming of Russian troops stopped by our defenders. It is much more safe today, and possibly next week we will even able to take liquid nitrogen from Poland.
Wow.
Because it's only way now.
Yes.
So the cells are safe now. And when I'm thinking I'm happy that we do it. That's all.
I'm happy that you did it too, because, the one thing we all have in common is we all have myocardial infarctions. We all have strokes. We all have blood disorders. And that's not something that's specific to Ukraine. It applies to Russians. So, the Russians are interrupting their own scientific benefits by interrupting the flow of liquid nitrogen to preserve cells in your research. That's pretty amazing. Nadiia, if you will come back, I'd like to just start to wrap it up here. We've been with you for an hour, and I know it's very late there for Volvo, and I'm assuming it's about the same time in Poland for Lubia. So I want to give you guys a chance to get your sleep tonight, and I know you probably need it more than anything. So Nadiia, talk to us about what people can do. And I know that Jared's got the QR codes that you gave me yesterday, and I can ask him to pop those up if he will, so people can get the QR codes to show how they can contribute in whatever ways. But talk to us about what we can do to support Ukraine, besides our local marches and rallies, and besides giving to the different organizations and I wore my blue sweater for you today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. First of all, I want you, it's not like I'm bragging for my friends or anything, but I want everyone to understand how hard for Luba and Vova it is to talk to us today. So
absolutely.
Because yesterday you actually asked me whether some of my family would like to talk. And the reality is actually that my family is barely talking to me these days. Yesterday was the first time when my brother called in since the war started. And he called me to tell me that my mom's psychological health is down to the road, and we need to do something about that. And I was so happy that he actually called me, and I didn't want to stop this call. And I asked him, tell me a few words. How are you? I don't know. And he replied, nothing. The war. And he dropped the phone. So I just wanted to be kind and respectful to these people, because the fact that they speak, that's priceless for us. And because of that, actually, I want to point at something that today the world is like super connected.
Yes. I have air alerts for Sumy and for the place where my family is right now. So I live in US, but I have these notifications. I work and I see that there is bombing in Sumy, so I live with that in my head. Yeah. And on the other hand, this is your connection to Luba, to Vova, to my family, to whole Ukraine, to people in Poland who accept, to the whole Europe, to the whole world. So despite of being remoted from those areas, there are millions of ways that you can help. And it's not always the material stuff that you can provide. There is a lot of stuff which is non-material, but which is priceless. So if you know someone who is Ukrainian, or you know someone who helps Ukrainians, there are many people in US who just make medical kits by themselves, drop them in the suitcase, and just fly all the way to Poland to leave that suitcase with medical kits in there. So if you know people who does that, come to their house and bring them some soup. As I said, there is a colleague at my work who from time to time she just texts me and says, Nadiia, I have the soup for you in the fridge, just pick it up. Because there is 7-hour difference in between Ukraine and US, and that means for all Ukrainians in here, I'll tell you what it means, we just don't sleep. That's right.
I slept 2 hours this night.
8,300 miles away we are from these two that we're talking to. And you stop to think about that, and it's getting very late there. It's after 11 o'clock now.
Yep. So yeah, exactly. So, but again, you can take your hand and you can text them, the people you know, or maybe you don't know them. I can introduce you to them. Just say 2 words. We support you. We care about you. If we can help you, we will be happy to help you. If you meet someone on the streets that you know that person is Ukrainian, you don't have to handle money or anything. Just the hug that Sarah you gave me yesterday, that is priceless.
Yes.
And as I said, these people, they are in constant search of support.
Yes.
Their eyes are wide open. They are trying to catch this support on the street. So if you have an opportunity to put the small flag, I'm in constant search for that. And when I see that, I text these people and I tell them, I saw the flag, I send them the picture. And there are people whom I don't know, but on Facebook, they send me like their prayers and they put the flag next to the icon or something. And I send those pictures to my family. So do that. Everyone can help. If you can donate, please donate. There will be this poster that I made with QR codes, whatever options. There is one QR code that actually brings you to the file, which is a website, which is a platform of a list of NGOs helping children, mothers, whatever option is comfortable for you. You're not obligated. Pick something that you're comfortable with. If you can volunteer, like yesterday at SOS International, devote your 15 minutes.
That was beautiful.
That will be priceless. Devote your half an hour. Just imagine if that one kit that you assembled, that one sterile packages of medical supplies that you put in the box, it might save one life. And there is one lesson that we learned in the Second World War. By saving one life, you are saving the planet. Don't get distracted by the fact that you won't be able to save all people. Unfortunately, no, we won't be able to save everyone. But just fix on one person. And actually, Liubov has a great example. She has a pen pal from US who just at the moment everything started, he showed up online and told her, Luba, I'll do what I have to do. I have this, and it doesn't. I'm sure for Luba it doesn't matter whether it's $1 or it's 10. It's every single cent is priceless. So just pick one.
Absolutely. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want to say that his name is Steve, and it's my passion connection, like you said.
Yes, so volunteer, come support us during these meetings, because the government and officials, they need to see that there are not only 5 or 10 Ukrainians in the country who's in Louisville who is suffering because their family isn't there. You are not supporting just Ukraine. As we tried to explain to you, this catastrophe is about the human's life for freedom of speech, freedom to have their own, to live in their own house that they own by all means, the freedom to save their life. Stand for that. These are actually the values that US was standing on from the very beginning. This is in your blood. Stand for that. Do not let people. If people need an explanation, why is it happening? Try to explain to them why is it happening. Because we have to understand this one thing, guys. We live in 2022. It's not the 15th century anymore. It's we don't discuss the question of who owns the land today. We are humans way beyond our animal nature. We are talking about reusing the rockets today. We are not talking about mining the fields.
Right.
More than 50% of the fields in my Sumy region, which were always at this point growing some wheat, so having some green stuff, Russians left those fields with mines. We can't use them anymore. So how these human values are overlapping? The values of 15th century to proclaim a piece of land yours and be bragging with that, or the value of being human and protect humanity and just stand for that. So you're not standing for some countries that you may never seen on Google Maps. You're for something else, for the human to have a right to identify himself, to be free. So come to rallies, follow us about different volunteering opportunities. And actually, I decided that I can't just sit and let Ukraine to have this vocabulary around itself as a war and missiles and bombing. So the next Thursday at Carmichael's bookstore, I'm going to read Ukrainian poetry. Everyone,
I'll come.
Absolutely. So again, Vova does his part. Liquid nitrogen. He does what he has to do. Luba does his part for free because this is what she has to do. And I'm trying to do my part. If I have to say the word about Ukraine, I don't want that word to be a missile or bomb. I want it to be poetry. So maybe some of you will remember that Ukraine is beautiful, poetic, absolutely artistic, contemporary country with an amazing history, with amazing people. I want everyone to remember that, and if you support that, please show that.
Thank you. And Riot Heart is going to post that QR code for us, and we'll put it in the comments of the streams as well, so people can check those QR codes and find out how to give. Liuba, before you go, in Poland, in Krakow, Poland, you said you were an animal lover. Can you show us that kitty cat? Is he anywhere to be found?
She's being a kitten. I just want to say that I want to say thank you to all of you that shared. I'll definitely be praying. And actually, I was moving around because my kitten must have realized your kitten was around, because she was climbing up trying to get on my computer. That's why I kept going like this, because she's like 2 months old and she wanted to play. So I apologize for the distraction. But just that you guys share your stories, your experience, and everything. And I respect that fight. Like, I understand that just having to fight, because I get it, and I just respect that, and it's sad that you guys are going through all this, and just know that there's tons of people here, even in Louisville, Kentucky, that support you guys. But I know there's tons of people all over the world, and I just send all good energy and prayers to you guys.
I think she's found the cat.
Yeah, I see it. He's cute.
Thank you so much, Summer. Yeah, I have this one huge kitten. Yeah, and I promised myself do not feed him so much after I have to carry him in this carrier for cats by my hands. So.
And I'll say one thing, that I'm an animal rescuer myself, and one of the things that has touched me so is watching people, here she got the new kitten, watching people coming out of Ukraine with 120-pound dogs slung over their shoulders because they wouldn't leave them behind. And it makes me sick when we as Americans can't take a dog to a new apartment because it has the wrong color carpet. That's just what astonishes me. But this kitten that Summer has is the last from her cats, and it was a surprise baby. We had the cats, we had the father neutered, and there was somehow just enough left impregnate the female one more time. So this is the last hurrah kitten. But thank you guys so much. We appreciate you so much. Jared, thank you for running our live stream and amplifying us. We're going to share it to all of our platforms now. And I just want to thank you. Luba, appreciate you so much. Volvo, appreciate you. Nadiia, I can't wait to hear you read poetry, so let me know when you're going to do that so I can come and live stream you.
Okay.
I'm sure
Summer
and Jared would love to come and meet you in person too, because you're just delightful. And I wish all of you safety and peace, especially those of you who are in the most dangerous area of the world right now. So our very special prayers go to you, Vovo, as well as to you, Liuba. And just pray that your families are safe, your friends are safe, and that life can be rebuilt, because one of the things that we've always said is if we have a will, we have a way. If there's a will, there's a way. And although many people say that the structure of Mariupol, for example, 40% of it is not recoverable, I pray that they will find a way to make that infrastructure stand again.
Thank you so much for all of your support. Thank you, guys.
We appreciate you. We'll check back in with you again. Sleep well. I hope you can sleep tonight. I hope the air raid sirens remain silent. And we just want you to know we love you and we appreciate you. And Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.
Героям слава.
Thank you.
All right, we are clear.